Picture a specific night. You know the one. You're at the table, the bar, or the living room floor with people you've known for years. The conversation flows. Someone tells a story, and everyone laughs, including you. You're laughing at just the right moment, with the right volume and eye contact. Somewhere beneath all of it, quiet and persistent, a thought rises. Nobody in this room knows what's really going on with me. Not even close. You don't say it. You reach for your drink. You ask someone a question about themselves. The spotlight shifts. The night moves on. You're engaged in all of it. The jokes, the plans, the easy shorthand of people who have shared years. And when you get home, or get in the car, or finally close the door, you feel hollow. Not tired. Not introverted. Hollow. The unique hollow of someone who just spent 4 hours surrounded by warmth and still somehow came home alone. Here's the thing about that feeling. It's not accidental. It's not ingratitude. It's not you being difficult. It's the inevitable result of a structural issue that almost no one talks about. And that's what this video is about. Welcome back. Today, we're exploring something that most people carry with them their entire lives. Privately, convinced it's proof of a personal flaw. They believe that if they were more grateful, less complicated, or just better at being around others, they wouldn't feel this way. They're mistaken, and I want to explain exactly why. We're going to create a full picture of what really happens when you feel invisible inside a group you genuinely belong to. Not an outsider, not excluded. You're in, and you're lonely. We'll examine the psychology behind it, the specific mechanisms that cause it, and the truth about what it means and doesn't mean for what you should do next. Let's go. Start here. Belonging and connection are not the same thing. That sounds simple. It's not. Most of us were never taught the difference because the people who raised us didn't make it either. Belonging was the goal. Belonging meant you were okay. If you had people, you had connection. Those were the same word. They're not. Belonging is structural. It means you have a place, a role, a seat that's yours. People know your name, expect your presence, and notice when you're gone. It's real, and it matters. Don't underestimate it. But belonging doesn't automatically give you the thing you actually need, which is the feeling that someone in the room sees the version of you that exists when the performance is off. Psychologists call that difference inclusion versus intimacy. Inclusion is being let into the room. Intimacy is being understood inside it. Here's the brutal part. You can have total inclusion with zero intimacy. You can be liked by everyone and known by no one. And when that happens, when you're warm and welcomed, and still somehow unreachable, the brain doesn't respond with neutral acceptance. It responds with confusion, and then shame. Because by every external measure, you have what you're supposed to want. So why does it feel like nothing? You turn it inward. You tell yourself you're ungrateful, broken, asking for too much. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for something real in a space that was only ever meant to give you something structural. And those aren't the same thing. Go back to that night at the table. Think about what you were really doing beneath the surface. You were monitoring the conversation for your entry points. You were adjusting your reactions. This joke gets a laugh. This one gets a groan. This one you let someone else take. You were editing the things you almost said. Catching yourself before the comment that would change the room's energy. Before the question that would make things awkward. Before the honest answer to, "How are you?" that nobody came here to hear. That work is invisible, and it never stops. Psychologists call it surface acting. You modify the outside, the face, the tone, the words, without changing what's inside. You smile without feeling warm. You agree without really agreeing. You are present, but emotionally distant. Surface acting leads to emotional exhaustion. Not eventually, but chronically. Not because you're weak, but because maintaining a gap between what you feel and what you show is genuinely taxing, and it doesn't stop. But here's the part that's hardest to understand. The better you are at it, the more alone you become. Because when you're skilled at performing belonging, the group responds to the performance. They like what you bring. They invite it back. They share inside jokes with it. Remember its birthday, and check in when it's quiet. And the version of you that exists beneath, the one with genuine texture, contradictions, grief that doesn't match the group's mood, obsessions that don't fit the group's culture, that version never gets tested in the room, never gets a response, never finds out if it would be okay. So you gradually become a stranger to everyone in the space, not because they rejected you, but because they never really got the chance. In the 1970s, psychologist Henry Teifel developed one of the most widely studied theories in social psychology. He spent years reflecting on group identity, partly because of his experiences as a Polish Jew who survived the Holocaust while most of his family did not. The question that motivated him wasn't abstract. It was, what effect does belonging to a group have on an individual? His answer, developed with John Turner and known as social identity theory, was this. When you join a group, you don't just add it to your existing identity. You start to see yourself through the group. Your worth, your status, your sense of normality and acceptance, all of it gets shaped around the group's values and norms. This fosters cohesion. It also creates a cost. Groups operate through sameness. They reward members who highlight what they share and subtly pressure those who emphasize their differences. The more you conform to keep your place, the more your individual self is hidden, not suddenly or dramatically, but gradually, decision by decision, edit by edit. And here's where it gets strange. You might reach a point where you're surrounded by people who genuinely like you, yet you can't remember what you truly think. Separate from the group's perspective. What you genuinely want, apart from what the group values. Who you really are, apart from the role you've adopted within it. The parts of you that get edited out. They don't vanish. They remain inside you, quiet and unseen, with nowhere to land. That's not belonging. That's concealment inside belonging. Now, here's what nobody talks about directly. You're probably not the only one doing this. Research on social groups in modern Western cultures keeps finding the same thing. People can be physically present, structurally connected, and emotionally invisible to each other at the same time. Not one person is hiding while everyone else is real. Everyone is hiding, simultaneously, from each other. Think about what that means for a moment. At that table, the night you came home feeling hollow, it's entirely possible that the person sitting across from you was running the same background process, observing the room, editing themselves, performing the version that fits. Later, they might go home feeling the same way you do. And the reason neither of you said anything is the same. The process happens quickly, below consciousness, and it concludes that the risk is too high. What if you say, I don't feel like I'm really here, and the group doesn't know what to do with it? What if you become the one who makes things heavy? What if you lose the feeling of belonging you have hollow, as it is, while chasing a connection you can't seem to find? So nobody says it first. The group continues as a shared performance. Everyone is privately sure that everyone else is fine. Jacqueline Olds, a researcher, spent years studying social isolation and found a consistent pattern. When people finally admit they feel disconnected, the most common response isn't discomfort. It's a relief. Me too. I thought it was just me. Almost always, the confession is met with a collective exhale. But someone has to go first, and the cost of doing so feels enormous. Therefore, the loneliness remains collective, hidden, and every individual in the group carries it alone. If being in a group makes you feel more alone, why don't you leave? This question sounds judgmental, but it isn't. The answer isn't weakness. It's a set of psychological mechanisms that are each rational on their own terms. The first is loss aversion. Your brain registers belonging as something real, even when it's painful. It calculates that losing it is worse than gaining something better. The hollow thing you have now is familiar. What comes after leaving is unknown. Most of the time, the brain will choose known pain over unknown possibility, not because it's stupid, but because that calculation helped our ancestors survive. The second is sunk cost, and it runs deep. Think about what you've actually invested in this group. Not just time, years, history. The version of yourself that grew up inside it. Some memories live here, references only they understand, a shared language that would have to be rebuilt from scratch elsewhere. Walking away doesn't feel like a clean exit. It feels like deleting something irretrievable. The third is identity. If you've been part of this group long enough, and social identity theory says it doesn't even take that long, your sense of self is partly built around it. Leaving raises questions you might not want to face. Who am I without this? What does it mean that I'm going? What does it say about them? The questions can spin fast, so you stop asking. And the fourth is hope. The quiet, persistent, almost rational hope that one conversation will open things up, that you'll find the person in the group who truly understands, that if you stay long enough, the depth will come. Sometimes it does. The depth arrives, and staying was the right choice. But sometimes, hope keeps you in a space that drains you slowly enough that the exhaustion seems normal. And by the time you realize what's happening, you've spent years inside it. None of this makes you weak, but you need to see it clearly, recognize exactly which mechanism is keeping you stuck, so you can decide intentionally instead of just defaulting forward. Before I explain what connection actually needs, I want to clearly state that this kind of content often gets overlooked. Some of you are watching this and thinking, I don't relate to this. My group feels authentic to me. I do feel understood. If that's true, hold on to it. That's not a delusion, that's fortunate. What you have is truly rare, and it's worth protecting and understanding, because it didn't happen by accident. Some of you are also watching this and thinking, I'm just an introvert. This is just how social interaction feels for me. I don't need deep connections in group settings to feel okay. That's also real, and it's not the same as what I'm describing. The feeling this video is about isn't the normal tiredness of an introvert after a social event. It's the specific quality of hollowness, of having performed and not been reached, of being present and invisible at the same time. You probably recognize this difference in your own experience, and some of you are watching this thinking, maybe the problem isn't the group. Maybe the problem is me. Maybe I'm the one who won't let anyone in. That question is worth contemplating seriously, not dismissing. Sometimes the performance is self-protective in ways that outlive the original threat. Sometimes the mask went on in a different room, a long time ago, and never came off, and now it's here, at this table, with people who might actually be able to handle more of you than you've allowed. Here's what genuine connection requires that groups often resist structurally. It demands someone to go first, not with a speech or a breakdown, but with one true thing you said before, knowing it's safe to share. Something unperformed, something that doesn't follow the group's feeling rules. Not strategically, just honestly. Connection doesn't come from two people both waiting for the other to be real. Someone has to move first, without knowing what will happen next. That asymmetry isn't a flaw. It's part of the process. It also involves tolerating disruption, because when someone drops the performance even slightly, or just once, it breaks the mutual fiction. It asks something of you, requires a genuine response. If you've been running the performance for a long time, a real response may feel uncomfortable. You might instinctively try to smooth over or redirect, but resist that. The discomfort is the opening. I'll be direct about what I believe the script often misses. Sometimes, it's not about how you show up inside the group. The group might genuinely be wrong for you. Not because anyone's bad or at fault, but because of a mismatch feeling rules, values, and norms that force you to hide parts of yourself. The real decision isn't how to perform better or wear the mask more skillfully. It's whether to stay or leave. That's the hardest choice, involving loss, sunk costs, identity questions, and grief over leaving something real even if it wasn't enough. Ask yourself honestly, not as a threat or drama, but as a true question. Is this a place where I can eventually be known, or is the structure incompatible with that? Sometimes, the answer is yes, stay, try, and a deeper connection is possible. Sometimes, the answer is no, and sitting with that truth is vital. Most real connection happens not inside the full group, but at its edges on-one conversations outside the group, where neither of you is performing for the room. If someone in your group might be capable of that, start there, alone, away from the pressure to perform, where feeling rules don't apply. Here's where we stand. Groups give you a sense of belonging, providing structure, safety, identity, and history. These are important things. Don't let anything in this video make you think they aren't. But belonging doesn't automatically fulfill what you truly need, which is for someone in the room to see the version of you that exists when you're not performing. To see the real you, not the role. To recognize your presence as more than just your function. The loneliness you feel when surrounded by people who call you their friend is real. It now has a name. It's not ingratitude, oversensitivity, or a flaw in your character. It's the natural result of inclusion without intimacy, surface contact without genuine connection. Most people carry this silently for years, convinced they are the only ones, convinced that feeling this way means something is wrong with them. Nothing is broken. The gap is structural. Once you see it as structural, instead of a judgment against you, you can do something about it. You can identify the edges of the group. You can take the first step with one genuine truth. You can accept the disruption. You can honestly ask yourself whether this particular group, with its specific norms, is a place where the real you could eventually belong. And if the answer is no, you can say that too. To yourself, at least. Clearly, and without hesitation. The issue isn't the group, it's the performance. Beneath the facade, there's a version of you that's never been fully accepted in any room. That version isn't a liability. It's the part someone, somewhere, is capable of truly understanding. The question is whether you will let them try. One question. Take it seriously. Think about the group you spend the most time with, your friends, your family, whoever it is. Is there a single person in that group who knows something real about you, not the performance, not the version that fits the culture, but something you shared because you trusted them rather than because it was safe? If yes, protect that. Invest in it. That kind of connection isn't common, and it didn't happen by accident. Someone went first. At some point, the performance paused for a moment. Hold on to that. If no, that's not the end of this. That's the start of an honest question about why not. Whether it's the group, or the habit of concealment, or both. Now you can see it. And once you see it, you get to decide. Subscribe if this territory is worth exploring further. Every week, the honest psychological truth about what's really happening inside human behavior. No performance, no filler. See you there.